Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. We're so glad that you're with us today to stay curious. Happens to be March 5th, 2024. Last night, within 20 hours, we saw the second SpaceX rocket go off our space coast here. A little bit of rocket's red glare there, and a photograph that I took across the street from, there's the whole view there. Across the street from Kelsey's in the CVS, for those of you that know that there. But this launch couldn't even see it lift off from the pad. It was so cloudy. And when it got up about 20 degrees, it was like the sun rising over the Indian River there with some people watching it. So, of course, we had the SpaceX Crew Endeavour dock for the 5th time up at the International Space Station. And we now have 14 Earthlings off of the Earth and 3 rookies on the Crew 8. It makes 614 humans have orbited the Earth since Yuri Gagarin in 1961. 76 of them are women, as we added Jeanette Epps to the Ladies Hall of Fame gallery that we have here at the American Space Museum. It's Expedition 71. For the crew that's going to take over and be up there 6 months. Saturday is when SpaceX Crew 7 is coming back after they've been up there 193 days. So add a couple more days to that. So just a little under 200 days for Jasmine Magoli, Andreas Morgensen, Satoshi Fukawa, and Konstantin Borisov. They'll be returning from their 6-month Expedition 70 up there. So things are going well. We've have 3 Chinese up on their heavenly palace, is what Tangong means in their language. And I'm going to say hi to Marty Winkle, my co-producer, by saying, Marty, did you see where they experiencing a periodic leak in the Russian segment of the International Space Station? But there's no concern for that, or they certainly wouldn't have launched 4 up there. But hello, Marty. How are you?
I'm doing good, Mark. Yeah,
Good. You're at the Space Center today?
Yeah. So Heidi Piper, I can't think of her, or I can't pronounce it. I should say her maiden name, but I'll just call her Heidi Piper. But she was excellent, very friendly, very outgoing, very nice person. Good. It was a good visit.
She had 2 missions late in the program, the last third, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was
there.
115 and 126, I believe.
Okay. Well, a mini crowd out there. Those of you on the Space Coast, you need to go out and see the astronaut encounter. Our astronaut wrangler, we call him, Nick Thomas, is always wanting to do a monthly program on Stay Curious, and his knowledge and stories he has to tell are just one of a kind, aren't they, Marty?
Yeah, they are. They're great stories. They really are.
So go to YouTube and look up Nick there in a minute, Nick Thomas, and see the great stories he's got to tell there. Is it spring break out there yet?
No, the crowds are not indicating yet.
Okay.
Probably next week.
Yeah, they will be. But I haven't been out there in a couple of weeks. I've got a lot of duties that keep me busy here at the American Space Museum. We're going to talk about a couple of them here in just a minute. We've got an auction that we're going to talk mainly about today, our auction Saturday of important space memorabilia. You can own a Rocketdyne rocket. Why not? Your spouse might not enjoy that, but send that spouse on a European cruise or something to make up for it. But yes, we have a serious rocket engine, all kinds of wonderful things, including Robbins medallions that were flown in space. Very rare to have, so stick around for that. But we want to keep you on alert that of course, all the social media are talking about it. But it's so worthwhile in such a cool picture that yesterday the SpaceX crew in Texas fueled up the Starship, and it's a big rocket that's going to propel it hopefully to Earth orbit on the 3rd trip. So everybody, including the authorities, are at peace with what happened in the last 2. And we're going to get ready for a 3rd launch of this massive rocket, Marty, here maybe in a day or 2. And I'm going to be watching. How about you?
Yep, I'll be out there.
We'll be out there. We'll be watching on YouTube, of course, but there are a lot of people are putting their eggs in this basket for this starship, and including the military. The U.S. Department of Defense would love to see it work. It would be an instant deployment of troops and cargo anywhere in the world within a 90-minute orbit, right? So give them credit. I understand there's at least 7 or 8 starships already built on the assembly line, ready to be checked out and rocketed off in the dream of Elon Musk to create a multiplanetary species by going to Mars within the next 10 years. Shuttle Fest 3 is April 13th, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Hyatt Place Hotel. Yes, there's a block of 10 rooms at a very good rate of $139. This is a $200 a night hotel, so thank you, Dana Lavoisier, for the manager there, for accommodating us for the 3rd year. We're going to have a good time. We'll start detailing that as we go along. But we want to detail first our charity spring auction is Saturday noon to 5 or 6 o'clock. There's 360 lots. You can get your QR code out right now and hit that and go right to the page that I'm going to show you where you can own a real rocket. And that's shown right there in the middle there, a real Rocketdyne engine that's been out the Holiday Inn for a while. I'll tell you a little more about that in a second. But a little bit of space history I wanted to cover before we get into that. And one shuttle mission, Marty. You know we want to be loyal to space history. Can you see what's going on there? Yes, indeed. That is a pig. Not pigs on the wing, okay, but a pig in a Mercury-style capsule. It was considered to fly a pig instead of a chimpanzee on the Mercury capsule for biological tests because a pig is very anatomically like a human. That's all I've read about it, okay? But that idea was never come to fruition, but every time I run across this real sketch of a pig in a Mercury-style spaceship, I want to share it. So there you go. But something that did happen in space history today, and I left my notes over there, Marty, wouldn't you know it? Thank you, sir, for getting them for me laying on my desk up there. Yeah, the whole pile there, I think. Or, no, what did I walk away with? Yeah, that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you there. This is James Van Allen before he became famous as orbiting Explorer 1, or Explorer 1 orbiting with his radiation detection equipment that detected the Van Allen belts of electromagnetism that circle the Earth. Don't hear much about those, but they're pretty much harmless. Here is Van Allen in 1949 in March with the concept of launching a small high-performance rocket suspended from a balloon above the atmosphere, and they were given the name Raccoons. Now, these are what are called testing missiles. We did a program on Wallops Island's anniversary, I think 75th anniversary, not too long ago. They're called sounding rockets, small rockets that go up in the atmosphere with payloads that can briefly analyze things that are going on, and then they parachute back down. Well, his idea was to take a balloon and lift a rocket up higher into the atmosphere, so then when you launch the rocket, it would go even further in the atmosphere. And this is the first Raccoon launched on the icebreaker Eastwind off Germany under the leadership of Dr. James Van Allen. He was a University of Iowa physics professor. So this was a big deal in 1953, 55, and then finally we orbited Explorer 1 in 1958, and Raccoons kind of were obsolete in many ways, but there still are some dreams of doing it. There's application in the 50s. You see the rocket with the 4 nozzles on the end there on the transfer vehicle that is, and they've got the balloon on another vehicle there filled up. Kind of a cool idea. After all, they do rockets off of jets. Okay, the Pegasus rocket is launched from a big aircraft. And if I go the right way today, and there are raccoons thought about in the 21st century. Here's a concept lifting up a rocket above the atmosphere that could even take a payload to the moon or interplanetary or just orbit around the sun for some data. So raccoons were first introduced to the world in March of 1949. Well, we love our shuttles, our shuttle astronauts, over 300 of them in our communities doing wonderful things to promote space, inspire that next generation. We have 10 beautiful shuttles in the month of March that launched 59 astronauts into space. I think 6 of them were women. Only Challenger was not launched of the 5 orbiters. There you see Columbia 3, Discovery 3, Atlantis, and Endeavour, each twice. And there's some really neat missions in there, 3 hard hat missions to the International Space Station. You've got STS-76A in the lower left was the 3rd docking with the Mir Space Station and exchanging crew there. Shannon Lucid was dropped off, I believe, and brought back Norm Thagard. So you have 2 Earth resources there, the Atlas right there at the bottom, 45. The A beside there, E, D, and so forth, is the orbiter that I put beside there. So I could instantly know on my little cheat sheet what orbiter flew that mission. 2 Department of Defense missions, definitely STS-29, but STS-3, it wasn't such a secret, but they did have a DoD payload in there on 2 astronauts, Jack Lausma and Gordon Fullerton, of course, on that mission in 1982. So mission we're going to talk about today is the very important upgrade to the Hubble telescope that was flown in 2002, launched on March 1st on a almost 11-day mission that had 5 different spacewalks. The extravehicular activities we'll talk about here in just a second, but they upgraded solar arrays, instrumentation, cameras, a cooling system, all kinds of things to give the Hubble life. And then, of course, we had the final mission, STS-125 was in 2009, the last time humans touched it, and it's still doing really good, the Hubble telescope is, in concert with the Webb telescope. STS-109 was a mission to service the Hubble Space Telescope. The patch depicts the HST and orbiter Columbia over the North American continent. HST's scientific capabilities and power system will be upgraded. Inside of its aperture, which is the opening at the end there, is a representation of Hubble Deep Field image representing billions of stars and galaxies in the universe, symbolizing the major discoveries made possible by the Hubble telescope, then in service just for 10 years. They have cameras increase the capability. They installed smaller and sturdier, efficient solar arrays, and they combined a new power control unit to operate it. So who was they? Well, that was the crew. I'm going to show you the crew here. So that from left to right, there's Michael Massimino. Okay, beside him's Richard Linehan. Then you've got Dwayne Carey is the pilot, and in the middle is the commander, Scott Altman, and that is Nancy Curie, and beside her is John Grunsfield, who also did another Hubble repair mission, and Jim Newman there. Hang 10 Jim Newman. Remember, Marty, we've seen him at the Space Center, and he brags about he's a big surfer, and he hung his 10 toes over the board that was moving him around with the arm, and he said there was hanging 10 in space there. So
Yeah, he'll be back out there on, I think it's April 25th.
oh, good. Yeah, I'd like to see him again. He's a good one there. So Nancy Curie there, she's like Wendy Lawrence, too short to do a spacewalk there. But so you see these gorgeous, beautiful pictures of these astronauts in space. Their publicity photos, and that's a Hubble image of a sombrero galaxy, is what that's called, seen edge on. But gee, it's done in front of a green screen. Kind of takes the glamour away from it, doesn't it, Marty? As they say, okay, everybody, line up. We're going to put you out there in the universe, and they turn around and look at the green screen that you and I are looking at with our beautiful background here. So here's the 4 spacewalking astronauts there. Linehan, Newman's on the bottom there. Linehan's in the middle, Grunsfeld on the left, and Mike Massimino. And Mike Massimino, many of you may know, remember, was on the Big Bang Theory as one of the astronauts on the space station up there. He was the one that nicknamed Wolowitz Fruit Loops when one of the Big Bang guys got up there with his telescope and to fix the toilet, I think he went up there for. But Massimino's, by all accounts, a great guy. I've met several space workers that have worked with him, and he does a podcast with Garrick Reisman called Two Funny Astronauts. And I've listened to it many times. Marty, I think they just kind of show up and say, okay, what do you want to talk about? And they kill an hour. A little bit like what you and I do, but we do have a little preparation. So we're remembering this mission, 22 years ago. And there's the Hubble telescope in all of its glory, one of the greatest scientific instruments ever created by the human mind. Well, we got another little blip today in the news, and of course I left my notes to that over there. We had the 25th group of astronauts chosen, might be the 24th. There you go, Marty. Thank you, sir. That's what happens when we're ready 10 minutes early. The flies are ready to fly again, and that's what the Group 23 of 10 new astronauts, 6 men and 6 women, were nicknamed. The astronaut group before them gets the nickname, the group after them. So, Marty, as we're talking about this a second, there the 10 are. How many active astronauts do you think there currently are in the NASA? Think about that a minute. How many dozen? Is it a couple dozen? 50, 60, 160? Marty, what's your guess?
I'm guessing 4 dozen.
4 dozen. You hit it on the nail. 48 active astronauts in the astronaut office, including the 5 that are now on the space station. 10 join them. Not going to rattle off their names, but they certainly are very all inclusive. Of course, you have a United Arab Emirates has 2 members on there, a woman and a man, and that's under a NASA agreement with the United Arab Emirates Space Center. And they receive silver pins, astronaut pins. They get gold ones when they qualify and go to space. So there's now 4 astronauts of the UAE qualified to fly on future NASA missions, and UAE has done some good things, including gone to Mars, orbited a spacecraft around Mars. So here's the new group of astronauts. They are getting their pins there from astronaut. He's shaking hands. That is Harrison Schmitt. Harrison Schmitt is 88. 4 astronauts are alive who walked on the moon. Buzz Aldrin is 94. Okay. David Scott is 91 to be 92 in a couple months, I think. Harrison Schmitt will be 89 in July. And the youngest moonwalker, think about this, the youngest human being to walk on the moon is Charlie Duke, 88 years old, and he'll be 89 in October. So these guys are racking up the orbits around the sun, and someday there'll be nobody to talk to or shake their hand who can say we walked on who can say yes we walked on the moon, but can say I walked on the moon. So Great. We've got since 1959, NASA has chosen 360 Americans, and it says here all but three qualified for a launch. So that's an interesting stat. Well, that's enough for space history today. Let's have some fun and look at how you can spend your money to help support the American Space Museum. Bid Again Auctions is the facilitator with Chuck Jeffrey, who's been on our show many times. Chuck is our chief operating officer for the museum, and he has kept the doors open with these auctions. Very important. Every auction is very important that we make as much money for the museum as we can. We make a certain percentage of these sales, and some of the items that are all American Space Museum items we've consigned to Bid Again Auctions and make a healthier cut of that. But yes, you can own a real rocket engine, but you can start pre-bidding now on that rocket engine, or John Glenn's autograph, or a flag that flew around the moon. Marty, you and I participated in many of these things. Marty's bought a couple $1,000s worth of things off of there. I'm lucky if I bought a couple hundred, but let's look at some of these things or how to get there. Here's the American Space Museum's website, and you go up above our emblem, the American Space Museum. You see events. That's where you click to see about Shuttle Fest. Auctions there. Click that, and of course on the right is the yellow Preserve History, donate money to us directly. So there's the click up there, and it takes you to our auction page. It gives you the auction calendar. Click that auction site in the middle. It takes you right to the company named Invaluable. That is where we put this up in the cloud, and then you start bidding whatever you want. And here's a couple items. Let's say that here are a couple items there that we're looking at. An old map of the solar system from the 60s that could go for $100. I think that's from the 50s. I've seen this original 7 astronauts sketching, and that's by the gentleman that I think it's Davis is his name, who did the Christmas cards in such stylized manners with aliens and stuff in it. Anyway, I've never seen this autograph by each of the astronauts autograph their own page of these pencil sketches of them. So that you got John Glenn, Scott Carpenter, Gus Grissom. I'm not sure if Grissom's in there, but $500 would be a great steal at that on there. And then you've got the Wally, there you have an astronaut autographed for the astronauts autographed that. That should go $300 to $500. You got a lot of manuals that you can pick up. Some of these innocuous looking manuals, like the familiarization manual for Project Mercury, okay, I'm seeing that should fetch, he's got $400 estimate on that as the low bid. All right, and then over on the left, you've got the American Society Mercury Redstone Flight, another $100 pamphlet. But centerpiece there in the middle with the white nozzle is the Rocketdyne engine that is a real Rocketdyne 5 3D rocket engine, working parts on it, and $100,000 is probably the reserve on that. We got a few bids up there at $6,500. That ain't going to pay for the shipping. Let's face it, there's some well-heeled people out there in the world that might want to own a real rocket and put it in their wherever, their mansion out there, and maybe we would get lucky and have one of the space companies want to buy it. This is a legacy rocket. This is a rocket that was used on such vehicles as the Atlas and the Titan. Don't hold me down to that, but which rockets this was used for. But it's a rocket out of the 60s and 70s and is in fabulous shape. This is where it stands out at the Holiday Inn at one point in time, photographed out there. So, and then you got rare vintage Vanguard pad explosion photographs, documentation. Some of this early pioneering days documentation is so cool to look at and own. And a lot of these lots are $100, it's going to take to get them. All right, they'll go for maybe some less, but we don't want to see Scott Carpenter's autograph there go for less than 150 bucks. There's a beautiful John Glenn framed picture there with his traditional signature. There is the recap of John Glenn's flight. I've held many of those in my hands. We don't let those go for less than $100. Gordon Cooper is always represented well. What a classic photograph of Gordon Cooper with the fog used on the cover of several books and posters and so forth. You can own that baby for just $120 easily. Then you have some pins. This Apollo pin command module test team is very small, but yet it's very rare. Pins are easy to lose. I've lost a few pins that I wish I had back, but pins are easy to lose, and they just need to really go into a display in your space cave and not worn. But there you've got a couple preliminary Apollo 7 mission, a Saturn 1B manual there. Here you have the name of Anders, Lovell, and Borman behind me here that are shown patches that were going to go on their spacesuits. They always printed extras of those. And then film. When you have film on there, we had talked to Bob Castro at Atlanta Photography Cineview, I think it's called, where they restore a lot of old films, your family films and so forth. You open up a can of film that is over 50 years old, and you smell the ammonia coming out of it because it's deteriorating quickly. So these did not have that, but they're for sale, of Apollo 7, I think. Chuck usually doesn't look at these to see what's on them because they're so delicate. Look at a few frames at the beginning to make sure it is what it says it is. Now, patches, there's a lot of patches, as well as autographs. Patches are a treasure trove if you know what you're looking for. There's one authority that you can go to, Space Patches. Oh, gosh, I forget the gentleman's name because I'm not into them. They're really difficult to tell, but this is on the right is a patch from a souvenir that could be worth up to $100. Why? Because the D of McDivitt has a red in it. And then there's an offshoot color one on the left there that is rarely seen. Chuck Jeffrey, our collection analyst, knows all about this. By the way, Chuck will preview your collection, give you an honest appraisal for free. Just call the museum to get Chuck Jeffrey's number. And he's taught me everything I know. Him and Ken Havicott Memorabilia, that sponsors our Shuttle Fest and our memorabilia shows, is also one of the 5 decades expert of all this stuff. It's always cool to have these wheel type guidance and navigation system adjustment wheels that tell you at what time you're supposed to be doing what. And they flip over back and forth, a quick little reference. Then, of course, you got a lot of photographs. Photograph after photograph, astronauts in training, some moon astronaut photographs there, rare photographs from spacecraft like the Lunar Orbiter and their surveyors that orbited the moon and surveyor spacecraft that landed on the moon. I get a little overboard on the Apollo stuff, showing it, and why not? Most of these gentlemen are gone. Most of the people that worked on the program are, if they're not here, they're at least in their late 70s. And Marty's one of those, okay, that worked on the Apollo program. And you're one of the young ones, Marty, of course. You've seen a lot of your friends pass on, and we all know that's inevitable. Marty Snoopy, that's a rare banner of Snoopy, the mascot of safety. Of course, Apollo 10 popularized Snoopy and Charlie Brown, calling the command module Charlie Brown, and Snoopy the lunar module when it went within 9 miles of the lunar surface. That's a very rare banner. I think he's got $400 on that, Marty. Never have seen one before. There is a beta cloth that's signed by all 3 Apollo 10 astronauts, John Young, of course, then went on to command Apollo 16. That should be worth easy $1,000 right there. What an heirloom from 50 years ago. And then you have all kinds of manuals. Snoopy scrapbook. What that means is the mission report for the day would be circulated around with a Snoopy cartoon on it. Ernie Rios, who passed away, and a friend of the museum, started that in the program. Just making a little sketch to kind of poke fun at maybe one of the workers or one of the supervisors, kind of a tongue-in-cheek morale booster, right, Marty? Those Snoopy and the Snoopy scrapbooks can go for over $100 when they're all put together from one mission. So another little minutia of the space program that I knew nothing about, and now I want to collect them, just like you. Got some more film there. There's Apollo 1. That is so rare. You're looking at all three astronauts signed a space cover. A couple other things thrown in there, like the Life magazine burial of them at Arlington Cemetery. Over here, some Mylar that was on the Apollo 11 lunar module number 5. And that's from one of the space workers who's passed away. And a whole collection of Apollo 11 stuff there, very popular to own the patches and things from the time there. And then you got an Apollo 11 Robbins medal. $20,000 for that medal, and it's about the size of a big dollar bill. Big dollar bill, a dollar coin. About that's a inch and a half inch, or maybe 2-inch medallion that actually may have been in the lunar module. Not sure of that, but it was orbited the moon, at least in the command module Eagle. Columbia. Eagle is on the ground of the moon. This is a company called Robbins. It's pure silver that they take, or gold. And this is a rare thing to own. And you may own it. Not sure what the provenance or the reserve is on that. But Chuck's got that at $20,000 to $30,000. If you ever meet Chuck Jeffrey, he's got a Robbins medal as a necklace around his neck. And it's worth a lot of money. From Apollo 13. Well, Buzz Aldrin signed a book. I've got that book, kids' book signed there. Bought it for $20, Marty, on the internet. You have on there, my friend, from your last Apollo Grumman reunion, the T-shirt, a beautiful coin, a hat, and kind of sad, but I wear that shirt quite a bit on the program here. So I hope you get a good number off of that. Then you've got some Apollo 12 transmission module photos off of the film camera. A lot of badges also on our, you're going to enjoy seeing a lot of badges. There's an Apollo badge there, Mission 12, okay, from Houston. Don't see many Manned Spacecraft Center Houston badges, but there's a whole collection there. Some of them say Gemini and Apollo on them from the same workers use them time after time. And you want to own something cool and then do something artistic with it, there's a piece of Mylar that Marty is offering for sale. Was that on LEM 12, Marty?
Yeah.
Which,
no, it's Apollo 12, LEM 8.
oh, it's Apollo 12. Okay, I was thinking it was 17. Apollo 7. So that's off Apollo 12, LEM 8. Marty had some left over and something that you... What's the story about that, my friend?
I was installing a pyro battery on the between the ascent and descent stage, and it's called a blanket, and it was 10 layers thick, if you will, and had a backup in case I messed up on the primary one, and the backup one I laid on the top of the descent stage while I was installing the other blanket, and I did such a good job that I didn't need the second blanket, and instead of throwing it out, I took it home.
There you go. And hoping to get a couple $100 out of that at least. By the way, everything in the auction is put in chronological order of the program. So you start out with the early unmanned Sputnik, for example, or Explorer, and then you go into Mercury program, and then Gemini, and then Apollo. Okay, and if you don't want to really buy anything but shuttle, Well, you got about maybe 3 hours until they get into the shuttle stuff at 360 lots. I've enjoyed watching this on my smartphone and following it that way. So download what's necessary from Invaluable for that. It's fun to watch. And there you got an Alan Bean signed, a classic photo of Alan there on a lithograph, and probably at least a couple $100 for that moonwalker who's passed away. Flight plan. Who wants a flight plan for Apollo 12 there? That's cool to have. And the rings on these flight plans when they were in a notebook are some of the metal that they may have clipped off of that and thrown into a vat when you see coins that contain metal from a spaceship that's been on the moon. All right. Oh, I was looking at what? All right. Wonder how my picture got there. All right, we're going from there. I'm going forward. Okay. And here's the Robbins medals that are being offered for a couple $100 from the shuttle era. These are actually owned by astronaut Woody Spring. So that's a lower end shuttle Robbins medal. I think these are bronze. Don't think they're silver. But who wants a Bob Crippen? John Glenn signed STS-1 there on your left. That should fetch $1,000 easily of these two great brave astronauts. Of course, John Glenn or John Young being a moonwalker, and then Bob Crippen being the pioneer he was on 4 early shuttle flights. Marty, you got something to say?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, Mark, that they're silver, not bronze.
Oh, they're silver?
And there may be some gold ones in that batch.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for correcting me. Yeah, they ought to be for $400 there. Yeah, those of you that love postal covers, you'll find a lot of those in there, like this, and lots. And Marty, that is a poster, and safety awareness poster when they were putting in the shuttle runway. And I've never seen that, and I'm sure Chuck's never seen that, and I believe he's got $400 on that should probably sell for. So you never know what's going to pop up in posters. And this was kind of a joke on me when I saw this and screen grabbed it. There you've got some more shuttle passes over there. The joke on me, Marty, is I'm looking at the piston out of the, that's actually out of the crawler, one of the 4 diesel engines. I think they each had 8 pistons on them, maybe 6. And we have one on display in our shuttle gallery. And when I saw that, I went outside the studio here to go look over to shuttle gallery and make sure it was still there beside the crawler. And it is. We're not that desperate that we have to sell it, but they have sold some things in desperation over the years to keep the doors open. And of course, never regretted it. There's always new stuff that's always coming in, and it all goes to good homes. There you see some film exposed there. Not sure what that mission's about. It must be a shuttle. There you have all kinds of launch passes there in the middle. And STS 51L. There you've got an actual pass, a couple things there. Krista McCullough photograph. That should go for a good couple $100. So, and then you got flight manuals behind me and so forth. So, there we go. There, forward. Oh, okay. I thought we had one more of the. I guess we don't. I was looking at a couple of the last ones there. Must not have racked that slide up. One of the last slides I was looking for is we have a piece of the rendezvous antenna, Marty, that you helped Chuck identify. That's part of this auction too. I see it on my print.
Me too.
But must have downloaded it wrong. So anyway, there's my pretty picture of the rocket's red glare here last night. Within 20 hours, SpaceX launched a crew to the International Space Station and then another satellite for their Starlink situation, which is doing a lot of good in the world. So, all right, 14 humans orbiting the Earth. We're looking at Starfest, and there's our Shuttle Fest. And we want to remind everybody of our spring auction this Saturday from noon to 5 or 6 o'clock. Own a real rocket or a real piece of space history. and add to your collection, but more importantly, add to your contributions to the American Space Museum. So thank you, everybody, for watching today and your contribution of spending this 40 minutes with Marty and I today. We're so glad that you do that and share with your friends on YouTube many of the programs. We have done over 200 interviews with space workers and astronauts, all of them worthy of your attention. I guarantee you, Marty, someday some space historian's going to find the jackpot motherlode of space quotes and so forth from people that did the things that you did, Marty, put us on the moon or build the International Space Station. So want to give a shout out to Mark Usiak and Cynthia Rossi, Gary Gerald, Dave Stange, Cliff Watson. Cliff's getting ready to leave Australia and come up here to the States. Tommy Usiak's watching. Clyde Lewis, thank you for being a regular, Clyde. Doug Forrest. Upright Television is upright watching us, as is Steve Jokums. Lillian, our wonderful new hire here at the American Space Museum, and Bill Whiting, always a faithful watcher, stay curious, and a great guy. And he's going to help us at Shuttle Fest with our vendors. So hope that you all can spend some more time with us this week. I'll probably try to catch up with some of that astronomy stories I promised the other day, but we got to get this auction out to y'all. So go to our page, log into the auction, and start bidding. Bid till it hurts, as Bid Again Auction says. And until the next time, I'm Mark Marquette saying, I can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us.